The Atlanta Falcons entered Week 11 with a 6-4 record. They were hoping to rebound from that tough loss to the Saints, but instead they delivered their worst performance of the season, a brutal 38-6 loss to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it was a shocking result, especially considering how competitive they'd looked in recent weeks.
So what went so drastically wrong for the Falcons?
Well, the defense was absolutely decimated by injuries. They went into the game with 8 players ruled out, a season high, including some key starters in the secondary.
8 players out. That's tough for any team to overcome.
Exactly, and it showed. Their pass rush has been a weakness all season. They just couldn't generate any pressure on Broncos quarterback Bo Nix.
And we saw what happened last season when Will Levis had a breakout game against this Falcons defense.
Right. The depleted secondary, coupled with the lack of a pass rush, well, it allowed Nix to have a career day. He threw for 307 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions.
So the Broncos offense really capitalized on the Falcons' defensive vulnerabilities. How did the Falcons offense fare against the Broncos defense?
Unfortunately, the Falcons offense couldn't find any rhythm either. Quarterback Kirk Cousins was held without a passing touchdown for the second straight game, a first.
That is surprising, especially considering Cousins' experience and the talent around him.
Yeah, this is a major red flag. It suggests there are deeper issues at play. Beyond just the opponent's defense, their offensive line struggled to protect Cousins, leading to 4 sacks. And their running game, usually a strength with Bijan Robinson, was completely...
Robinson had a career-high game the week before. How did the Broncos manage to contain him so effectively?
The Broncos' defense was clearly prepared for Robinson. They stacked the box, limited his running lanes, and they held him to 35.
This game just seems like a perfect storm of issues for the Falcons.
It really was. The injuries on defense were a major factor, but the offensive struggles and the ongoing issues with the pass rush point to deeper problems. Problems that need to be addressed.
This was the Falcons' lowest point total of the season. Their rushing yards were dismal. The overall performance was simply not up to par. They now enter their bye week with a 6-5 record, and they're facing some serious questions about their ability to compete in a tough NFC South.
Absolutely. The Falcons need to figure things out quickly, otherwise they risk falling behind in a tight divisional.
Can the Falcons turn things around in the second half of the season, or is this the beginning of a downward spiral?
That's the big question. They have the talent to be a competitive team, but they need to use this bye week wisely to address these fundamental problems.
The Falcons' ability to make the necessary adjustments will be a major storyline to watch in the coming weeks.
It certainly will. This next game against the Chargers will be a real test for them.
It'll be interesting to see how they respond to this setback and if they can get back on track.
I agree. This next stretch of games will be crucial for their playoff hope.
What specifically do you think they need to focus on to improve?
Well, their pass rush is a major concern. They need to find a way to generate more pressure on opposing quarterbacks, even when facing injuries in the secondary. They allowed Will Levis to have a career game last year, and they just repeated the same mistake with Bo Nix this year.
What about their offense? Where do they need to improve to support Cousins and get back to their previous levels of production?
The offensive line is a big issue. They need to do a better job of protecting Cousins, and they need to find ways to get their running game going again, even when teams stack the box to stop Robinson.
It sounds like there's a lot to unpack here for the Falcons coaching staff during the bye week.
There is. The Falcons are at a crossroads. The decisions they make and the adjustments they implement over the next few weeks, well, it'll determine their fate this end.
We will certainly be watching closely to see how they respond.
I'm sure we will. It's going to be a fascinating second half of the season.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We have. This loss to the Broncos was a wake-up call for the Falcons.
It definitely revealed some areas of weakness that need to be addressed if they want to compete for a playoff spot.
Absolutely. The Falcons have a lot to think about during this bye week.
What do you think are the most pressing issues they need to address?
Their inability to generate a consistent pass rush is a major concern.
It seems like they've struggled with this all season, even when healthy.
Yeah, their lack of pressure on the quarterback puts immense pressure on the secondary, even when fully healthy.
Do you think this is more of a personnel issue or a schematic problem?
It's likely a combination of both.
They do have a few promising young players on the defensive line.
They do, but they need to develop quickly. And the coaching staff needs to find ways to scheme around their weak and maximize their strengths.
What about the offensive side of the ball? What are your key takeaways there?
The offensive line's performance is hurting.
Yeah, it seemed like Cousins was under constant pressure.
He was. And that affects everything. It disrupts timing, limits play calling options, and can lead to turnover.
And then there's the issue of the running game. Bijan Robinson was practically invisible in this game.
The Broncos did a great job of shutting him down, but the Falcons also need to be more creative in their run blocking.
It's a stark contrast from the week before when Robinson had a career-high game.
It highlights the importance of adaptability and being able to adjust to different defensive approaches.
So, looking ahead to the second half of the season, what are the key factors that will determine the Falcons' success?
First and foremost, they need to find a way to generate a consistent pass rush.
And on offense?
The offensive line needs to improve, and they need to find ways to get Robinson going again. If they can do those things, they have a chance to turn things around.
The NFC South is incredibly competitive this year. Do you think the Falcons can still make a playoff push?
It's going to be an uphill battle, but it's not impossible. They need to come out of this bye week with a renewed focus and determination.
It will be interesting to see what adjustments they make and how they respond to this adversity.
Absolutely. The next few games will be a crucial test for this team.
Do you have any predictions for their upcoming matchup against the Chargers?
The Chargers have a potent offense, so the Falcons' defense will be tested. I think it'll come down to whether the Falcons can generate pressure on the quarterback and contain the Chargers' passing game.
It seems like their ability to get to the quarterback is going to be a key factor in almost every game they play from here on out.
It is. That's how impactful a consistent pass rush can be in today's NFL.
What about the Falcons' offense? Do you think they can move the ball against the Chargers' defense?
It'll be a challenge. The Chargers have a talented defense, but if the Falcons can give Cousins time to throw and establish the run, they have the offensive weapons to put up points.
It's clear that the Falcons have a lot of work to do if they want to turn this season around.
They do, but I wouldn't count them out just yet. They have talent and they have time to make adjustments. It's all about how they respond to this adversity.
The bye week came at a perfect time for them.
It did. They have a chance to step back, assess their weaknesses, and make the necessary changes.
Their next game against the Chargers will be a good indicator of how effectively they've used them.
I am looking forward to seeing how they come out and play. It should be an exciting matchup.
Well, I think we've covered all the key aspects of the Falcons' current situation.
We have. They're at a crossroads, but with the right adjustments, they can still salvage this season.
It's going to be a fascinating second half of the season.
Yeah.
And we'll be here to break it all down.
I agree. It's always intriguing to see how teams respond to challenges and whether they can find ways to overcome adversity.
The Falcons' journey from this point forward will be one to watch closely.
Without a doubt. They have the potential to be a playoff team, but they need to execute and show consistency.
It's all about putting it all together on the field week after week.
Exactly. That's the key to success.
Well, I think this wraps up our analysis of the Falcons' Week 11 debacle and their outlook for the rest of the season.
It does. We have highlighted their areas of concern and discussed the steps they need to take to improve.
It's been a productive conversation.
I agree. The Falcons have a lot to prove in the coming week.
What do you think will be the most important factor in determining their success?
Their ability to adapt and make adjustments, it'll be crucial.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, they need to be able to adjust their game plan, based on their opponent's strengths and weaknesses. They can't just rely on the same strategies week after week.
So you're saying they need to be more flexible in their approach?
Exactly. They need to be willing to try new things, experiment with different personnel groupings, be creative in their play calling.
Do you think they have the coaching staff in place to make those kinds of adjustments?
That remains to be seen. They've shown flashes of brilliance this season, but they've also made some questionable decisions.
It will be interesting to see how they approach the second half of the season.
It will. This is a pivotal moment for the Falcons organization. They're at a crossroads, and the decisions they make now will have a lasting impact.
What do you think their biggest challenge will be?
Maintaining consistency. They've shown they can compete with the best teams in the league, but they haven't been able to do it consistently.
It seems like they've struggled to put together a complete game.
They have. They'll have moments of brilliance on offense or defense, but they haven't been able to sustain it for an entire.
Do you think this is more of a mental issue or a lack of talent?
It's probably a combination of both. They need to develop a killer instinct and learn how to close out games.
And they need to avoid these disastrous performances like the one we saw against the Broncos.
Absolutely. Those kinds of losses can be demoralizing and have a ripple effect throughout the team.
So what's your overall outlook for the Falcons?
I'm cautiously optimistic. They have the talent to make a playoff run, but they need to show more consistency and make the necessary adjustments.
The next few weeks will be telling.
They will. If they can string together a few wins and build some momentum, they could be a dangerous team down the stretch.
It's going to be an exciting finish to the season.
It always is. Yeah. And the Falcons are right in the thick of the playoff race.
Well, I think we've covered all the key points for today.
We have. The Falcons have a lot of work to do, but they also have a lot of potential.
It's up to them to make the most of this opportunity.
I agree. The next few weeks will determine their fate.
It's been a pleasure discussing this with you.
Likewise.
Until next time.
Goodbye, and see you in the next video.